This just in. Landline senior editor Mark Schremmer on the scene here on Radio Nemo live streaming this Monday morning. Good morning, Mr. Schremmer.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate that intro. That's like a childhood dream there.
I know we always, when Claire kind of composed that, Mark, I said, basically listen to the CBS News stinger, and my wife went, yeah, I got it. I'll come back, and literally composed that based off of that. You remember that, Dave? Yeah. Mark Schremmer is here on the scene, man. We have a conversation that's actually kind of unfolding. Dave, take it away.
Oh, yes. Wow. I'll tell you what I'm going to do here is run through a timeline that is not 50 years long, like most of the timelines we talk about, like parking. So here we go. The now infamous Florida crash happened on Monday, August 18. OOIDA asks Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to suspend states' authorities to issue non-domiciled CDLs for interstate commerce. Then on Thursday, August 21, OOIDA sent letters to 43 governors, each asking each state to stop giving out new non-domiciled CDLs until problems with the program can be addressed. On that same day, last Thursday, ICE picks up the driver's brother who was in the country illegally. And then on the next day, Friday, this past Friday, the State Department, of all departments, releases Rubio's statement, and we are putting the kibosh on those CDLs. Thanks not great, but thanks, period, to OOIDA for this. But wow, you couldn't make this up. I mean, this is made for TV movie stuff. The brother thing is like a bonus. I'm not trying to be funny here, but wow. When things happen, they happen all at once sometimes, and this is it, huh?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Here at Landline, you talk about going back timeline 50 years. Landline magazine is having its 50th anniversary year, and we're kind of starting to get ready for our October issue, which will kind of commemorate the 50 years of Landline in that issue. And so all the work kind of went on that. But then last week, with everything that happened, everything obviously pivoted to so much news that kept on coming out about the crash, coming about the details. Obviously, like you mentioned, association wrote a letter to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and then to the 43 governors that currently issue non-domicile CDLs. But yeah, it seems like every moment we're getting more details on this. Obviously, there's been kind of a political pushback between what you're getting out of DHS and DOT versus what California governors saying, all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of noise associated with this, but I think the big part in OIDA's take on it is this should all be about safety, all about creating great barriers to getting a CDL, regardless of your background. The true professional truck drivers to be able to, the ones that I talk to all the time that have gone, 1 million miles with no crashes, it's real skill to do that. And we need as many of those type of drivers as we can, so we make sure when they first enter the industry and get that CDL, that it's somebody who's been properly trained and has the skills that they need to be successful and be safe.
Safety is, to me, and I'm going back through, again, pretty much the same 50 years that you guys are going through. Safety is one of those umbrella words where when you're in trouble, you just duck under the safety umbrella, and we talk about how safety is the most important thing, and through the decades, in my experience, like safety meetings. How do you have a safety meeting at a factory? Well, that's pretty easy. You just do it at lunchtime, and everybody's in the cafeteria. Okay, how do you do it with trucking? Well, every once in a while, somebody will come into the office. But then we had the cassette tapes, and the cassette tapes started going out. In other words, what I'm trying to get at is that safety is a real thing for the industry. It is the basis. It's the core of the existence of the industry, because forget the commerce. If you're not safe, the commerce doesn't get there anyway. So what's the difference? You might as well not have trucks if they're not going to be safe. And then the people who drive the trucks are people, and all of that gets balled into it. But I think what happens in trucking is that we preach safety, safety, safety on issues that don't seem to be directly related to safety. So we're accused of pulling the safety card out every time somebody hiccups on the highway. It's like, oh, that's a safety issue. We got to do something about it. Well, it's not really a safety issue. We'll have to do some research on that. And then 3 years later, you find out it is a safety issue. Now we got to do research on how to address the safety issue that we should have addressed 3 years ago. I mean, I'm talking in circles, but I think we are living in circles. It's frustrating, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
So no, I totally agree with you, and I think the thing that so I don't have obviously as much experience and background as yourself, or
you will.
As Landline as the magazine,
will.
but I've been here 10 years.
Okay, you've only got 40 more. You'll make it. You'll make it. What I'm saying is that's look. And I'm not. You see, that's the other problem. I've been sitting on the sidelines on the side of the road for 50 years watching what's going on and maybe trying to pick up some of it. So I'm not an expert in any means. Just being around long enough doesn't count for much at all. But what I'm saying is that this crap has been going on for as long as I've been around, and that's a long time. So again, let me give it back to you.
Yeah, no, 100%. But the thing when I did start 10 years ago that was shocking to me, I had a journalism background. I'd worked at regional newspapers in Missouri and Kansas and that sort of thing before that. But when I came over to here, I remember at that time there was some of the news that Jamie Jones' stories she was working on at the time was about entry level driver training rule, and I thought, oh, okay, they must be beefing that up or whatever. And then I realized, no, this is the first time that they're going to have a rule, and that was so shocking to me. And what I've always kind of said, if you were to start, like you said, we use this word safety all the time, and I feel like if I was going to start a government agency today for trucking, what's the way that we could ensure safety the most? I would think it would all start with making sure that the people that you're giving CDLs to, that you're putting behind the wheel of these 80,000-pound trucks, are as equipped and as well-trained as possible to put them in a position for success. And instead, it seems like the safety are about like these kind of weird regulations sometimes about what color the tape is on certain things, and all the gadgets that we can try to put on to try to alleviate. It's like we want to make it easier for somebody to get behind the wheel, but then we want to cover it up with all these gadgets and all of this. So I feel like that's the thing. If we want to talk about safety, let's start with the core issue. And I think the best thing that you can do is the person that has that CDL is somebody who is skilled, who really should be behind a truck. It's like, with anything that we have, I mean, if I'm going to hire somebody to be my plumber, they better not like screw up everything in the house, or electrician, better not start a fire. They better know what they're doing. And we should, and this is not just about, it is about safety, but it's also, we need to protect the people that we're giving these CDLs to. We need to put them in a position so that they're not, we're just setting them up for really possibly a catastrophe. So we need to do that. That's what I think is that we need to start with the core principles and the building blocks, and that starts with a well-trained driver.
Yeah, and we need to avoid a diploma mill. And the other thing I wanted to ask you both, and I'll start with Mark, do you think this is the logical end, the final end of a lot of what happened during deregulation? The idea that we've made it so much easier and easier and easier over the 50 years that deregulation really begins, which is around the mid-70s, 75, 76, when President Carter begins to deregulate the industry. Do you think this is the promised end of where we'd end up, where we have too many people who don't have either what I would call the background training or the actual training, and now we've got just people out there on the road who think they're qualified to drive trucks and aren't?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I do, one of the things that I know is that you look back of, since deregulation, since 1980, the type of situation that where the salaries have not kept up with inflation whatsoever of drivers. So it does seem there's obviously a lot of issues there where, if you pay a high salary for any profession, you're going to be able the cream's going to rise to the top. There's going to be a lot of competition for those jobs, and they're only going to go to the most skilled, the most trained, those sort of thing. But we've had the salaries drop to the point where a lot of people that might have been a truck driver before chose to do other jobs, or we see the turnover rates at large carriers. When it's exceeding over 100%, and somebody would go, well, maybe I'll just do construction instead, or do this job that's sort of related to it instead. I think you see that happen quite often, and if you look back. Not to dodge your question too much, but it kind of starts where you look at from 1980 to now, where that's gone salary-wise, and I think there's a connection there, I'm sure.
Deregulation, do you think economically then it's a devaluation of the job itself? Not the people in the job, but the job itself has been devaluated. The rule of unintended consequences at play.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be an economist or even as far as knowing all of the history of everything. I was born in 1978, so we're going back to 1980 there. It's hard for me to know for sure everything that plays into part of it, but I definitely think that's at least there's definitely some signs that point to those indicators there that is part of it, because why have those salaries not kept up with inflation? Why are turnover rates so high? And I think there are a ton of factors there, but to act like that it has absolutely nothing to do with deregulation, I think would be difficult to believe as well. Obviously, that was a key point on the timeline for anybody. And if we're going to trucking, the history of trucking, that's going to be a key point on anybody's timeline.
For sure. Hey, I don't pretend to be an economist either, but I do go to the grocery store, if you know what I mean. I enjoyed doing it. You enjoyed hearing it. And Ten Ring said the open for your segment here this morning. He says, that sounds like the roving reporter section of Ray Stevens' The Streak. That's great. That's a compliment. Mark, thank you so much. And you deserve every nice thing that Jamie Jones said about you. The piece is called Administration to Halt Work Visas for Truck Drivers, Rubio says. You can go to landline.media. And then just look at the news there, and you'll see that and the other stories that you and everybody is working on over there at Landline now. So, wow, thank you so much for being part of what we do around here, man. It's not devalued.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Thank you, and have a great week.